Next question from Andy Geis. With teams contemplating or already starting to get rid of big non-conference matchups, could the lack of quality opponents make Notre Dame look at joining a conference finally? Or would they be content beating up on G5 and bottom feeder Power 4 teams every year and be labeled as frauds going into the playoffs every year? I got to tell you, Clinton, if you replaced Wisconsin with the Green Bay Packers and Michigan State with the Detroit Lions on next year's schedule and Notre Dame went 12-0, people would still say they are frauds going into the playoffs.
Haters are going to hate, man. You're the one answering this question. And
it's a tale as old as time. It's a tale as old as time. Notre Dame is a fraud going into the playoff. People said the same thing last year, and then they beat the third place finisher in the Big Ten, the second place finisher in the Big Ten, and the SEC champion en route to making the national title game. I do think, though, that from a scheduling perspective, it's an interesting question and a real concern, particularly given that the ACC top to bottom is not a good conference, and Notre Dame's draws in the ACC have been particularly bad the last couple of years. Like this year's was god awful, and it's funny to kind of think about how like a year changes things. Like heading into the season, you look at 2025 Syracuse after the year they had last year. They're bringing in Steve Angeli. It's like, oh, that could be a competent team, and then Steve Angeli gets hurt, and they look like the worst team in the FBS. So it hasn't been a good draw with them. But the fact of the matter is that there's going to be teams that are going to play Notre Dame. I do think the November scheduling is a bit of an issue, and they don't have a lot of margin for error just because you're not going to get non-ACC teams playing you in November because they're in conference play. They're not going to want to do that. And if you have a bad ACC draw, that doesn't give you a lot of runway heading into the playoff. Now they got some benefit this year that Miami is in November. That is going to be a big boon for the schedule, so that helps. But you already have the SEC, and I think the Big 12 and maybe the ACC too. They've already mandated that each of their teams has to play one Power 4 out-of-conference team a year, which is going to help Notre Dame because teams still want to play them, regardless of all the bullshit bluster that happened in the offseason this year about Notre Dame's going to get iced out. They're going to get boxed out. You know what these athletic directors love more than anything, Clinton? They love money. And you know what they see when they see Notre Dame? They see dollar signs, because whether you're playing at Notre Dame and you get a guaranteed game on NBC, or you're hosting Notre Dame and you know that ESPN, ABC, or Fox, depending on your conference, is going to pick up that game, or CBS is going to pick up that game, you know what it also means? It's a guaranteed sellout. In these land of shitty non-conference games, when you're playing North Dakota and Bowling Green and Ohio and Miami of Ohio, when no one wants to go to those games and you can't even give those tickets away, Notre Dame's coming to town. You're going to sell out that game. And you know what you can also do? You can jack the shit out of your ticket prices for that game. Those $50 upper bowl tickets, Clinton, now they're selling for $100. You can increase the value of your season ticket package for the year because you can sell to your season ticket holders. We have Notre Dame coming here. No one is going to say no to that. And if you look at the next 5 years, Clinton, they already have home and home schedule with BYU, Texas, Auburn, Alabama, Indiana, and Florida. They play Clemson every year starting in 2027. They have a home and home with Michigan coming up in 2033 and 34. That's plenty of scheduling inventory when you factor in that they're playing Navy every year. They got the 5 rotating ACC games a year, plus Clemson. There's plenty of scheduling inventory for Notre Dame. And I just, like, the whole Notre Dame needs to join a conference thing is so funny to me because of everything that's changing in college football. The one thing that stays constant is that Notre Dame doesn't want to go to a conference. And I don't know why. I get why people don't appreciate that, because people are fucking jealous that their team isn't good enough to sustain itself financially independently like the way Notre Dame is. It's all jealousy. That's what it is. But there's something comforting in someone who doesn't want to change with the times. They want to stick with tradition. And the fact of the matter is, people should be afraid the day Notre Dame joins a conference, because the day Notre Dame joins a conference is the day that college football as we know it and love it ceases to exist, because Notre Dame's joining a conference when the Super League happens. You don't want the Super League? You don't want Notre Dame in a conference. So there you have it. I do think that there is, to a certain extent, Notre Dame has, just kind of wrapping this up, I think they've kind of made peace with the fact that they more often than not are going to have to be 11-1 to get into the playoff. But I do think if you have a couple more years like this last year where you go 10-2 and you're clearly one of the 5 best teams in the country, you get left out, that might change the calculus behind the scenes a little bit. But until that happens, it's not going to happen.